We got treated to an absolutely insane episode of Monday Night Raw. An episode of Monday Night Raw that was honestly better than some of the WWE PLEs this year. Okay, maybe some is a bit of a stretch, but I think we can all agree that it was better than a very, very specific show with a goofy title. But despite all that, there is a lot to cover just from this episode alone, and that is what we are going to be talking about in this video. And real quickly, before we get too far ahead in the video, I want to say that if you are a WWE fan, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. That is all we post is WWE related content. So if you're a WWE fan, again, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always change your mind later. So this insane episode of Monday Night Raw got kicked off by John Cena because it was his very last episode of Monday Night Raw. Which still doesn't feel real to say, but it's unfortunately true. And not only that, but it was also in Madison Square Garden, and you know the WWE always typically will go all out for an episode of either Raw or SmackDown at MSG. And this one was absolutely no different. John Cena comes out to a thunderous ovation from the Madison Square Garden crowd, and before he can say too much, Dirty Dominic Mysterio interrupts him. And what results from this is a match for the IC title at Survivor Series. And I love the fact that they're kind of like speed running this little feud between John Cena and Dominic Mysterio. I don't think too much needs to be said about the type of year that Dominic Mysterio has had up to this point, and obviously WWE wants him to finish just as strong as the year started for him. So it would not surprise me at all if going into that Survivor Series match, we see Dominic Mysterio walking away with that IC title again. And while all of that was getting taken care of, the match that was going to take place last night on Monday Night Raw, it would be Dirty Dominic Mysterio teaming up with JD McDonough and Finn Balor, taking on John Cena versus Sheamus and Rey Mysterio. And honestly, this was a really, really nice touch by WWE because while we didn't get a match necessarily between John Cena and Rey Mysterio and Sheamus, they still get their moment with John Cena as we are inching very, very dangerously close to that retirement. And not only was the matchup fun, but it was also a really, really good match. And obviously, with the amount of talent that was in the ring for that match, it shouldn't really have been that big of a surprise, but that was just an amazing way to kick off that episode of Monday Night Raw, and we had no idea what the rest of the night had in store for us. Because after that, we had Solo Sikoa's match against a mystery opponent for the Last Time Is Now tournament, and that mystery opponent just so happened to be Dolph Ziggler, aka Nick Nemeth. Similar to what we saw with Matt Cardona returning as Zack Ryder, we see Nick Nemeth return to the WWE as Dolph Ziggler, and it just felt so good to hear that theme song one more time. And that match with Solo Sikoa was a lot better than I really thought it was going to be. Honestly, I've watched a handful of Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth matches on TNA, and the dude still got it, and he showed it here against Solo Sikoa. Every sell was like $1,000,000 for Dolph Ziggler, one of the best sellers of all time. The sell that he did on that Samoan spike was honestly one of the best sells I've seen of all time. So while, again, kind of like what we saw with Rey Mysterio and Sheamus, while they don't necessarily get a match with John Cena, they still do have a role in this retirement tour. So good for Dolph Ziggler making his way back to the WWE, and maybe, just maybe, he makes another return sooner rather than later. Who knows where this could lead to? And then you had probably the biggest shock of the night, Maxxine Dupri defeating Becky Lynch and becoming your new Women's Intercontinental Champion. This one really caught me off guard because I think we were all kind of expecting an AJ Lee return here, but I don't think too many of us were expecting AJ Lee to return, thus costing Becky Lynch the match and the title. And I know a lot of people are going to groan about the fact that Maxxine Dupri is the Women's IC Champion right now, but Becky Lynch did exactly what WWE needed her to do for that title. And that was to build that title up as much as humanly possible so that the next person to make it is a career-defining moment and going to make a bigger star out of whoever was going to dethrone her. Becky Lynch did her job, and she did an amazing job at that. And as for Maxine Dupree winning, that completely opens that field wide open. Honestly, who knows who we're going to be getting coming after Maxine Dupree now for that IC title? Because it does feel a little bit different, because obviously the name value between Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree is a pretty drastic drop off. But nonetheless, again, the field is wide open, so the matches that we could be getting, A, it's going to be something new, which is always very refreshing, especially at this time of the year. And B, it's a big moment for Maxine Dupree, and it's going to be a big moment for whoever wins this next. And it's also a massive moment for Maxine Dupree, someone who has worked her tail off to get to this moment, which is something that, while you may not like the decision, you have to agree with. She has put the time, she has put the effort in to get to this point, so she really, really deserves it. We had Gunther make his return with his original theme song, mind you, and his match with Javon Evans was simply amazing. I know a lot of people were kind of nervous for Javon Evans heading into that match, thinking that it was maybe going to be a squash match, but this match really, really showed a lot of main roster fans who may not necessarily tune into NXT. It showed them exactly what Javon Evans is all about and why he is seen by many as a future cornerstone of this company for years and years to come. And obviously, I think people would have been more happy with Javon Evans winning as opposed to Gunther. But let's be honest, the second that Gunther was announced for this tournament, I think a lot of people in the back of their minds knew that it was going to be Gunther winning. Not just winning that opening match against Javon Evans, but winning the entire tournament and being John Cena's final opponent. And that would take us to the main event, where we didn't necessarily have a match. We had a big brawl at the very end of the show, but we also had something really, really interesting between the Vision and Logan Paul. Since we saw Logan Paul kind of side with the Vision for War Games, everybody has been wondering if he's joining the Vision full time, and something that was very interesting to note was he came out with the Vision while Drew McIntyre, who is also on the War Games team, came out separately. So maybe that's me just reading too much into that, but I think it is worth noting that Drew did come out separate. Logan Paul came out with the Vision, so maybe he is joining the Vision full-time. If he is joining full-time, I'm at the very least intrigued as to where that could go post-War Games. And then we got the two big returns at the very end of the night. Brock Lesnar returning to join Team Vision, and Roman Reigns returning to join Team CM Punk. Again, probably two names that I think a lot of people could have predicted being in this spot, but nonetheless, they did it in a really, really fun way, because that brawl that took place was really, really freaking good. And one thing that I want to see WWE return to is when there is a brawl, have the locker room empty and try to break it up. Obviously, it's a little more difficult to do with a team for War Games as opposed to just a one-on-one feud, but I still think what we got was nuts in itself. Having the poor NYPD police officers getting speared through the barricade and downright speared into next Tuesday. And that was it for a wild episode of Monday Night Raw. Obviously, with this episode, we didn't necessarily get as many questions coming out of it like we sometimes usually do with an episode of Raw. We got a lot more answers this time. War Games on the men's side is all set up. The women's War Games match is starting to really take place. And with that episode of Monday Night Raw, we are officially back on the road to Survivor Series War Games, and what a road we are on so far. So this is where I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of last night's episode of Monday Night Raw? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you not enjoy the episode? Let me know why you did or didn't, and also let me know if you agreed with WWE's decisions made last night. Again, for me, as a wrestling fan, I don't know how you could possibly dislike that episode. Sure, maybe you can dislike some of the outcomes of some of the matches and some of the decisions that were made, but as an episode of Monday Night Raw, that was on par with a PLE. So as always, let me know that stuff down below in the comments, and while you're down there, swing by the description and click the Linktree link. That is the only link in bio for a reason, and that is because it'll take you to all of the social media platforms for this channel, and I do suggest going and checking out our X page. Besides YouTube, I'm most active over on X. We do updates for Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and the PLEs. And above all else, I want the X page to be a place for wrestling fans to go and talk about wrestling, especially if you're like me and you don't have a lot of people to talk to about wrestling. Another place that you can go and talk about wrestling is over on our TikTok page. Since that page is still relatively new, the only content that really goes on over there is just clips from these videos, and it's just another place for me to post when I upload a video on here to YouTube. But eventually we are going to be doing more of the WWE wrestling related things that you see over there. So if you're scrolling on TikTok one day and you come across one of those videos, drop a like, drop a follow, show it some love. It would greatly, greatly appreciate it. With all that said and done, that is going to do it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Again, both are free and both really, really help out the channel a lot. And of course, if you have made it to this point of the video, I want to say thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos here, because it genuinely means the world to me. And as always, stay tuned for more WWE content coming in the future. We'll see you next time.